This is the Women Your Mother Warned You About podcast, sponsored by Sales Gravy. I'm Gina Tremarco, Master Sales Trainer and Director of Coaching Programs at Sales Gravy. Before we get started with this week's episode, I want you to go and check out Sales Gravy University. Sales Gravy University is the place where sales professionals and sales leaders from across the globe go to learn and upscale. And right now, if you're a brand new user and you've never used Sales Gravy University before, you can get your first course for free by using coupon code FREECOURSE when you go to learn.salesgravy.com. That's coupon code FREECOURSE when you go to learn.salesgravy.com. And hey, I've got several courses there that you can check out. So I hope to see you there. But let's go ahead and get started with this week's episode.
Let's say we've got a young preteen young lady. She's on Instagram, she's on Facebook, she's looking at magazines if people still read magazines, and she sees all of society's images of what pretty is.
Yep.
She starts to say, if I'm not this that I see, I am not pretty. Take a woman in sales who happens to be in an environment where the only thing she sees that is successful is someone who looks like Trevor, right? So if you are from a historically excluded group, your definition of sales success is someone who is of the opposite gender, who is of the opposite race. So therefore you say, if Trevor is successful, I should emulate Trevor.
Hey, Warners, welcome to another episode of the Women Your Mother Warned You About, sponsored by Sales Gravy. I'm Gina Tremarco, co-host of this show with my lovely British partner,
Susanna Gray-Jones.
Welcome, Susanna. I'm so excited about our guest today. But before we introduce her, I know a conversation we were having before the show was the word of the week, because this is something we've been trying to teach our audience and bring the cultures together. You brought up the word chips and crisps.
Mm-hmm.
So chips to you are what?
Chips to me are when I go to McDonald's and I want a bag full of the salty, hot potato. I think they make them with potato, but potato chips. And I am obsessed. And in England, when we have fish chips, fish and chips. Now, it's the one thing I always order with every meal. And the one thing that I know that in America is different to what we have. So if I have chips in America, it will be like crisps. So it will be cold and it will be smaller. So I will be quite disappointed if I order chips and I get crisps. So I prepared myself for that disappointment. So you guys call chips fries.
Yeah. You have to call them fries. If you want those warm, yummy things, you need to call them fries. If you order chips, you will get those crunchy, cold things in a bag.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that we're clear on that. Now, I'm excited to introduce our guests because before we started this recording, she brought up a phrase that was also new to you. It's tuck and tuck or tuck and buck. I can't even remember what she said. It's tuck the buck. You know what, Cynthia Barnes, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
This is a great way for you to show the show. I told you anything could happen here. And what was the phrase? I already forgot.
Tuck and bucks.
Tuck in bucks. So I know this is a little maybe, I don't know. It's pushing the envelope. It's pushing the envelope a little bit. Sometimes my goal is to make Jeb Blunt blush. The conversation we were having was about my upcoming nuptials and potential entertainment at my bachelorette party, which Cynthia referred to tuck in bucks. We're not even going to explain it. Listeners, you can figure it out. I'm going to leave it there. And Cynthia, I'm going to give you a much better introduction than that because I don't think you want to be totally brought on the show with tuck and buck. So a quick introduction.
No, because my mom might be listening.
Uh-oh.
Do you want that introduction?
You know what? It's fine. It's fine. I'm about to celebrate a milestone birthday. And if she hasn't figured out by now that I've done some things that, you know what, your mother would warn you about, surprise, Mom.
Ooh, what a great segue, Cynthia. And I want to give you a little bit of a bio intro. But before I do that, how do you define women your mother warns you about?
Women who have the courage to show up as their best, true, authentic, unapologetic self.
Yes.
I think that's my favorite. About. That's my favorite that we've had so far.
You are, yes, you fit the show. We're going to keep you here. Maybe we'll have 2 co-hosts going forward. Who knows? Maybe this is an audition. We don't even know. It's Cynthia.
Count me in.
So real quick, for our listeners, Cynthia Barnes is an award-winning sales influencer, keynote speaker, LinkedIn top voice, and the National Association of Women Sales Professionals and Barnes Sales Institute founder. I can't wait to hear more about the National Association of Women Sales Professionals, because my question is, why am I not a member of this? So I need to hear about this, because I need to be part of that. So, Cynthia, welcome to our show.
Thank you so much for having me. If our show is going to be anything like the introduction, if the sizzle and the meal is going to be anything like the appetizer, you know what? We're going to have some fun.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, we are. Yeah, we are. So, welcome. I'm so excited to talk to you. I've got so many questions for you. I don't even know where to start. And sometimes Susanna and I, we will fight for airspace, including, you might have heard us earlier singing. When she comes to America, we're going to karaoke.
Oh, yeah.
And this morning she left me a message, and gosh, we would love for you to join us. I don't know what your schedule's like, and you're only like 4 hours away, but she left me a message this morning singing, "Anything you can do, I can do better." And I responded in a voice message, "No, you can't."
"Yes, I can."
You got it. You got it.
Susanna, I know you're always so prepared, better than me, and I love that, because you are such a great co-host. I'm gonna give you first crack.
You're gonna give me the first question, hey?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna let you go first.
One thing that I was gonna say, if you can't make it in 2 weeks for Gina's bachelorette party, I am so excited to see that you are speaking at Outbound.
I know, right? Oh my gosh. It's bucket list time.
Yes.
I reached out 2 years ago, and I sent Jeb a message, and I said, "I see the lineup for Outbound. I would love to speak." His response was, "We're full this year." And I said, "Okay." So when I got his message through LinkedIn saying, "Hey, we'd like you to speak at Outbound 2022, I almost fell off my doggone chair.
That is awesome.
Yes.
We are so excited to have you and to see you, because even before I knew that you were coming on this show, I'd seen you on LinkedIn. Because you're often speaking and you're a big influencer on the whole, like women in sales, champion for women in sales, LinkedIn top voices. And it's something that is on my mind massively at the moment, so much to the point that I put up a poll this morning saying, are women treated equally in business? And so far, I've had almost 200 votes, and 46% of the audience have said no. Women are not treated equally in business. So the fact that I put that poll out this morning and we've got you on the show today, I'm willing to know what you think.
I am going to follow up with a question. Those who said yes, that women are treated fairly in business, what percentage of those are women?
Well, that's a great question.
Ooh.
One that I haven't looked at yet. You're challenging me now. 27%. I'm actually going to have a look at Gina asked the next question, because I'm curious to know.
While she looks that up, what are you going to be speaking about at Outbound?
Bounce back ability.
Ooh, tell us more about that.
How to bounce back, or i.e. your resilience in a profession full of setbacks. So bounce back ability is that ability to get your teeth knocked in and then show up for the fight the next day.
I love that. What inspired that? Because I know there's got to be a story behind that.
Well, in sales, we get rejected 90% of the time. We pick up the phone, we get hung up on, we get cussed out, our emails get unanswered it's rejection over and over and over and over. And we get up the next day and we pick up the phone again. But sometimes if you're not careful and you don't develop that resiliency, that rejection, that constant rejection will have you doubting your ability, have you doubting your worth, whether or not this is a great profession for you, have you thinking about things like, you know what, I could go work at McDonald's and sell fries. Or 5 o'clock comes around and you say, I wonder who's on Indeed hiring. So if you can develop that resiliency, that BBA, that bounce back ability, then you get up the next day even more empowered and motivated to keep going.
Have you ever struggled with that resilience?
Every day. Every day. As an entrepreneur, I get up in the morning and I say, I've got this thing by the you know what. And then by 5 o'clock, sometimes if I'm not careful, I'll say, let me head on over to ZipRecruiter and see who's hiring that meets my qualifications.
Let's be real. I love that transparency, seriously, because I've been there. Susanna and both as entrepreneurs. There were those days where I'm like, oh my God, yeah, who's hiring?
Right. I mean, it would be so much easier because as an entrepreneur, especially in the beginning stages, you are the accountant, you're the marketer, you're the social media manager, the chief cook, and the toilet paper roll replacer. So it gets old quickly.
It's hard to stay focused in that scenario.
It really is. It really is. And I actually, the first time in a whole year of having my own business, had a moment last week where I just thought, do you know what? This is so hard. But then you think of the alternative of having a boss and all the hours that go with it that you can't choose. And there's that side to it. So it is. I mean, the great thing about sales gravy is you kind of get both, but there's that constant battle.
I was just going to say that because I wondered if I could make the transition. Well, I didn't wonder because I obviously went to Jeb and said, hey, I want to work for you. But I had to really think about what would that look like that after being an entrepreneur for so long to go back the other way. And I think it's about the culture you end up joining if you do that. And I know a lot of people have done that. They went from entrepreneurship going back into working for someone else. And Sales Gravy does give us the opportunity to operate as if we were our own CEO within our own basically revenue stream, right? So I think that's the beauty of having that experience and then going back to working for someone. But even not being an entrepreneur, like you're talking about, every morning waking up and, okay, let me do this. And then by the end of the day, you're like, it's got to be 5 o'clock, isn't it? No, it's only 3.
Right.
Yeah.
To Susanna's point, you choose your hard because working for someone is hard. Yeah. Working for yourself is hard. Which hard do you choose?
Yeah,
it's so true. And to answer your question, Cynthia, out of my poll, out of the 27% of people who said, yes, women are treated equally in business, 3/4 of them were men.
Oh, isn't that interesting?
I can believe it. I just looked through man's name. So yeah, very interesting how the perceptions, I'm going to get even more data on that over the next few days. But it made me really sad actually to think that 46% of 200 people think that women are not treated equally in business, because personally, I feel that I've been treated equally to a man. What do you feel like it's like in America? What are the differences? Because I know you're very much a champion for women in sales. So what's your perception on that?
I don't have one. I rely on data because the data never lie. And I could talk all night and day about my perspective and how the lens through which I look and view the world is, well, some would say it's my perception. My feelings are my facts. Okay.
Right. Yeah. I was going to say it's feelings and emotions versus facts and logic.
And I can't go to someone and say, I feel, or I believe. I can lead with data to say that women on average make X amount of money for every dollar that a Caucasian man makes. African-American men and women make this much compared to a Caucasian man. That data is irrefutable. So when you ask me, what do I think or what's my perception? My perception is based in data that women are not treated fairly in business because it's not equitable.
Here's the $1 million question.
Yes.
How do we get to equitable?
That's a great question.
I love her questions.
And now I'm going to talk about what I think.
Girl, go.
Okay. So a lot of people, the majority of people that I talk to and work with on a daily basis say women should be more confident. Women should speak up more. Women should do this and women should do that. And my question is, why do you think women should do that? Well, because they need to do this. And I counter that and say, can I make a suggestion because I care? How about we change the system in which the women have to compete instead of trying to fix the women?
If you could change the system, what's one thing you would change?
We would focus on equity instead of equality. And for example, if I invite you and Susanna and Jeb over for dinner at my home, and I have pot roast, steamed asparagus, and garlic mashed potatoes,
yes,
and then have creme brulee for dessert. Yes, right? But then Jeb says, you know what? I'm vegan. Equality states that I'm going to offer everyone the same meal of mashed potatoes, garlic mashed potatoes, meat, asparagus, and creme brulee. Equity says that I'm going to prepare a vegan meal because that's what Jeb needs to thrive. So until we have a system that focuses on equity and not equality, equality is a law. By law, you have to offer X, Y, and Z. Companies who want those from historically excluded groups to thrive focus on equity instead of equality.
Okay, can I play devil's advocate for a second?
Absolutely.
Because I love analogies. So you're saying if we switched over to a vegan meal for all of us?
No, just for Jeb.
Just for Jeb. Yep. So Jeb would get the vegan meal because it's like, I like meat. And so if you're telling me I can't have meat, now I feel like I am being, I'm being deprived.
Right.
Okay. So it's just, we give Jeb what he needs while we get what we need.
To thrive.
Got it.
To thrive.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause I have an iron deficiency. So I need the pot roast.
You do.
Right.
And Susanna may say, you know what, pot roast is not good for me because I have high cholesterol. So we're going to give her salmon with the healthy omega 3s.
I would not be so rude, actually. I would just say I'm going to eat it anyway because I'm super polite. I don't know about Jeb. I've never had dinner with him, but yeah. No, point taken. So it's about...
That's a great analogy.
It is a great analogy, even if it makes me really hungry. And you always talk about things that make me hungry. Like in the first email that you sent to us, let's have a latte. And I'm like, ooh. And then your Twitter comment this morning, which I loved, by the way, which was, what was it? May your coffee be strong and your Mondays be short. Love that.
Yes.
Ooh,
so you guys have got me super, super hungry now. But yeah, I mean, I do think it's something that I've noticed since I've been dabbling in America than I have been in the UK. But then I thought even more about that, and I haven't come across as many, be careful what I say, as many women who are as fanatical about sales as me in the UK. And I've been in business for a long time, and it's been a lot of men, but not that many women who are obsessed in the same way. So maybe that's got something to do with it. I don't know.
I would say along those lines, because that's a good point. When you look at the women in sales in the US as well, right? What are the stats behind that percentage wise of women in sales versus men in sales? Do you have any indication on that?
I do. So
I knew you would.
So when we're talking about women who sell or those who sell B2B services, 39% of the sales population of women who sell B2B services, 39%.
Okay.
11% of sales leaders are women. That's it.
11%. Wow.
Yes.
I wonder why that is, because I've spoken a lot previously, and because I studied education, that was a big thing. And we looked at gender. And I know I've mentioned this before, but we spoke about the female and the male brain and how it's proven that men take more risks than women. And one could argue that sales is a risky game sometimes for some people who like to play it safe. I wonder if that's got anything to do with it. I bet there's quite a few different factors. What does your research tell you?
Well, I spoke to an HR leader the other day, and we were talking about how women don't take risks. And if a man sees a job description and he says, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and apply for it, versus a woman who looks and says, I'm not qualified, so I'm not even going to apply for it. We have to take a look at whether or not that's only half the story.
Mm-hmm.
We need to take a look at, is that job a lateral move? We need to also take a look at, men will look at a job description and say, I'm going to apply because he already knows that he can do all of those things, because he has the experience to do all of those things, because he's done it.
Mm-hmm.
A woman will look at it and say, I don't have the experience and I don't have the tools to level up, and I may not get the support in that role to level up based upon previous experience.
I could see that. Now, again, devil's advocate.
Mm-hmm.
And we probably the three of us probably all relate to this. I'm a little bit different, I think, whereas I just don't see anything as impossible.
Right.
Like, I come in like a bull in a china shop going, yeah, I'm a woman. So what?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't have the tools. I'm going to pretend I do. Yeah, I don't have the experience. I'm going to fake it till I make it. I'm probably a little different for whatever reason. I'm sure there's plenty of science behind that,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm sure that I am part of an anomaly of women.
Like a lot of Americans that I've come across. There's this,
I don't think there are a lot of, I don't know. I don't encounter a lot of women who have an attitude of, yeah, so when I'm a woman, I'm still going to go after it. And I don't care what you say. I'm still going to like pursue it. Now, I've definitely been totally pushed around for sure through my career. And it probably just made me more angry to step up.
Yes.
Right. That's what happened for me, because when we talk about, you were talking about feelings, right? Early on in my career, I had a boss say to me, who was the CEO that I reported directly to.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I've had two. I had a manager who said this, and another, both managers, one a CEO, one a regional director, say, one said, you make too many decisions based on your gut.
Mm-hmm.
I need you to make more decision on fact. And then another one who said I was too emotional.
Mm-hmm. I hear that.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I then tried to, no longer trust my intuition, which later came back to bite me, because usually my intuition's right. Because I'm extremely intuitive,
mm-hmm.
because of my emotions and because of my emotional intelligence. And I've worked really hard to learn how to have emotional discipline and control it. But there's value to it once you take emotions and you combine it with facts and logic.
Mm-hmm.
That becomes super powerful.
Super powerful.
Yeah.
Yes. So we are the anomaly, Gina, Susanna.
I knew it.
We are.
I knew it.
We are. Because think about this. Let's say we've got a young preteen young lady. She's on Instagram. She's on Facebook. She's looking at magazines, if people still read magazines. And she sees all of society's images of what pretty is.
Yep.
She starts to say, if I'm not this that I see, I am not pretty. Her self-esteem goes down, and she is doubting her self-worth.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If she doesn't have anything to counteract that, strong parents who are infusing confidence in her, sports, STEM, things like that, she is left to the only model of beauty that she sees.
Right.
Take a woman in sales who happens to be in an environment where the only thing she sees that is successful is someone who looks like Trevor. Right? So if you are from a historically excluded group, your definition of sales success is someone who is of the opposite gender, who is of the opposite race. So therefore you say, if Trevor is successful, I should emulate Trevor.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what you see.
Right.
That could be what you see. I mean, from a personal perspective, when I've been in those kind of environments, I've kind of tried to use it to my advantage, because I do think that women have a lot of advantages too, that we can use. I don't know how PC
so
this is, but I'm not saying I get my boobs out or anything like that. But
oh good.
But there is a certain.
But I do.
I think that women have a certain charm and a way to get what they want sometimes, in a way that could be argued that men can't. But also on that, I completely agree what you said, by the way, about the whole Instagram thing. I'm looking at Instagram every day. I feel like I'm a very strong woman, but everyone's talking about what they're getting done to their faces now, right? And
yes,
someone said to me the other day, they said, oh, you could probably get your lips and your chin done. I was like, I quite like my lips and my chin. Do I need to get it done? But then you see that with the business as well. And I had a lady, because I work in recruitment as well as sales, Gravy. And one of the ladies said to me, I'm not sure I want to work in that office because there were a lot of men. I felt like I would have been one of the only women. And the CEO said to me, we want more women. Please find us more women. We seem to be attracting too many men. What advice would you give to a lady who is coming in then to a male-dominated environment, who wants to stand out and prove herself and progress?
Number one, be realistic. If you're going to go into an office where you're the only one who looks like you, be prepared for bloody knees and elbows. You can try to buck the system, but it comes at a price. You can be a trailblazer, but it comes at a price. And that's okay. There are some like Gina who's saying, you know what? Okay, let's go. Give me your best shot. The second thing I'd like for women to do is, if they're not willing to do that, that's okay. Don't beat yourself up for that. Find companies who want to celebrate women in sales. And there are tons. I always tell our members, go where you are celebrated, not where you are tolerated.
Yes.
So when you're looking at companies who say, yes, we want women in sales, and quite frankly, 78% of the Fortune 500 are trying to attract more women in sales, but they don't have initiatives to go beyond the hiring. They don't have initiatives and programs to develop them, and they don't retain them. So look at a company and ask her in the interview process, tell me about your women in sales initiative. And if he looks at you like a deer in the headlights, it's time for you to go someplace else. If there are no female ERGs for women in sales, or for women, period, then it's time for you to go someplace else.
I love that. And because I am interviewing people every day, a lot of people ask me about what the company's diversity is like, but they never ask me what the gender equality is like. And I think it's a brilliant question, especially in business, especially if we're seeing results and statistics like we are. I'd say it's extremely important. By the way, I'm going to steal what you said just then about be celebrated, not tolerated. That's such an awesome way to sum it up.
In professional and personal, everything.
Yeah, 100%.
Everything.
But also, I'm going to remember to treat others in that way as well, because, sometimes we do take people for granted, our workers, and we do sometimes think that we're tolerating them, but forget about the great things about them. So I think it's, thank you for that. I'll steal that.
Pleasure. Yeah.
You bring that up, Susanna, and I know that you coach for Sales Gravy as well as I coach. And I think you did this with a previous client where we worked on doing a SWOT analysis, right? Every program we do with our clients are different from a coaching perspective. But one thing I've been doing with my clients is having them do SWOT analysis on each of their team members as well as themselves. Right. So I have them do that. I'm like, I want you to do a SWOT, a personal SWOT on each team member. And then I want you to do a personal SWOT on yourself. Then I want you to actually take all of the weaknesses and threats and combine them. So take all the weaknesses of all of your team members, put them in one column, same with the threats. Then I want you to look at the trends. And I want you to find the pattern of where the weaknesses are repeating. And if you see that the weakness is repeating over and over again with several people, then I want you to compare it to your weaknesses. And I want you to see where's the key denominator there, that are their weaknesses your fault or your weakness? And that's been so transformative of looking at, right? So going back to the celebrating, because then I'm like, I want you to look at the strength and the opportunities. Where are they super strong that you are not celebrating or telling them, hey, great job, and this is what you do really well. And here's where I see opportunity for you to get better. And here's where I say I haven't done my job as a leader to get you better than, in this area of your weakness or your threat.
I love that. And I'd love for you to ask them one other question or something else, because I care. can you ask those leaders who manage both individual or male and female ICs to keep a spreadsheet or to track the performance of the men versus the women? And if you find, which 9 times out of 10, this is the case, on average, the men are performing better than the women, there's an opportunity there.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for that.
Actually brings me to my next question. What do you believe then is the future for women in sales?
Wow.
Whew, that's like a whole other episode.
Yes.
Sorry, guys. I've got a lot of questions.
Yes. So I believe that true change comes from grassroots. We can go all night and day and talk about how leaders need to do this and that and change the culture. The fish stinks from the head. You got a cliche, we can put it up on the board. But any true change that has ever come in this world has been from people at the bottom pushing up. The civil rights movement, Rosa Parks. When we band together, first of all, when women in sales band together, we are more powerful than if we are alone. Our collaboration is a competitive advantage. So when we start to speak up and say, Mr. Manager, where is our women in sales ERG? Or what is being done to help elevate those from historically excluded groups? Or let's be transparent about salaries because we want to talk about equity, not equality. When we as women start voicing our opinions and demanding those things, the fairness, that's when true change is going to happen. And that's the future that I see. At NAWSP, we talk about we're more than a membership. We are a movement to make sure that women in sales have a seat at the table, have a voice, and parity is just the minimum.
I'm learning so much from you, by the way, but not just what you're saying, the way you're saying it. I love the fact that you've got such a strong message and you say it in such a calm, chilled way. It's, very, very inspirational.
Well, let's talk a moment about your association. Number one, can you tell us more about it? And then tell us what inspired you to found it.
Sure. We are a membership-based organization of women who sell B2B services in predominantly male-dominated industries. We provide our members with 2 key areas: access to companies who are laser focused on attraction, hiring, development, and retention of women in sales, and also the community training, professional development and training created by women in sales for women in sales, and mentoring opportunities as well as community.
And what inspired you to do that?
I've been in sales ever since Girl Scout cookies were $1.50 a box. I used to.
Oh, girl, I know, I remember
right?
That.
And so I used to say in my speeches, well, this is how long I've been in sales. And I would give them a year figure. And one time a young lady spoke up and said, that's longer than I've been alive. And I said, got my feelings hurt. And I finally changed it to and then they can go back and say, well, when were Girl Scout cookies $1.50 a box? But anyway, I digress. So I've been in a number of verticals and I've been at the top 1%. I worked hard and was very fortunate to achieve top 1% status. And I kept going from vertical to vertical to vertical saying, okay, well, I want a new challenge. Brian Tracy said in the beginning of my sales career that if you sell tangibles, you shouldn't sell intangibles and, stick to one. And so I was on a mission to prove that I could sell both tangibles and intangibles. So in 2016, I was burned out. And I said, what am I going to do? What's my next move? I can go to sell something else, a new challenge. And I was on Facebook one day and, the ultimate philosopher with all of their memes. And I'm going to butcher this. But essentially it said the true measure of your success isn't in how well you do. It's actually in how many others you help do well. So I said, what if instead of reaching the top 1% over and over and over again, I create a system of professional development and training that helps women in sales reach the top 1% and help others.
That's awesome. And since you've been doing that, what's your biggest success story in helping people do that?
It's a small one, but it's a big one. So keep in mind that traditional sales approaches were created by men for men at a time when men made up the sales force. Nothing wrong with them. I was in the top 1%, and I'm sure Gina, Susanna, you were too. My hypothesis was, how much faster could women in sales reach the top 1% if we had approaches that took into account the unique situations and challenges we face while amplifying our innate strengths? So this is an and economy. We no longer have to choose this or this. We can do both. So you can take traditional sales approaches and you can take those created by women for women and still come up with a system that works for you. So to answer your question, my success story is when a woman in sales reaches out to me and says, for years, I was told that I was doing it wrong because I was different. And I heard you say, Cynthia, that different never is wrong. So now I can show up as my best, true, authentic self, sell the way I want to with scripting that works for me, being assertive so that I'm not seen as aggressive, and I'm able to sell my way. That right there is what I'm after.
I'm in. Where do I sign up?
I mean, you know, it's interesting you were saying assertive, not aggressive, because I think we certainly, you know, the whole Wolf of Wall Street, that whole kind of image of being cutthroat and are you tough enough to be in sales? And there are many of us who aren't tough, but we are great salespeople.
Right.
I know you've got to have that mental toughness, but it's that image, isn't it? The cutthroat, the harsh. And I see it a lot with bosses as well. They think that when you get to the top that you need to basically treat people a bit like shit.
Yes.
You know, that's the first time I've sworn on this podcast. It's scary because I certainly feel that that's how I should be in some environments. But there's another way. There's absolutely another way.
Yes.
I did have another question for you, because you are one of the top 1% performers and you've clearly been successful in your own right. Often there's that phrase, isn't there, that those who are successful find it hard to train people who haven't got that innate ability. Do you find that that's a struggle for you at all?
Oh, I used to. And I would say, you know what? You can get to the top 1%. All you have to do this. I even wrote a book, Reach the Top 1%, Success Strategies for Warrior Women in Sales.
Yeah.
And a manager once told me, Cynthia, not every client or prospect is going to want to join up with you. Love them anyway and love them where they are. So in coaching women in sales, I meet them where they are at that given point. Everyone is going through something that you don't even know about. And if I go and hammer and say 1%, 1%, 1%, and you're struggling to meet your basic mortgage, rent, student loans, whatever, the top 1% is so far-fetched, you can't even think about that. So I'm going to meet you where you are and ask you, what is your goal for this month? And how can I help you get there? Yeah. And a lot of managers will talk about, you can make $300,000 in this job. But yet, if they're not even meeting half quota and they're eating tuna and ramen, that's the wrong coaching approach.
Yeah, this is one thing I learned early on, like in the first time I had a coach. And then I went through a lot of studying of coaches and how coaches coach before I became a coach. And one of the biggest things I learned was that there are coaches out there who can be referred to as guru coaches. And these are your coaches who do it like I say, do it how I do it. This is what works. I've done this and I've 10 times my revenue and income, yada, yada, yada. Do it this way. And that doesn't necessarily work for everybody. And I would watch people get into these coaching programs and fail and lose their money. And literally they were looking for a silver bullet, and they took the silver bullet from the charismatic guru, but they themselves were not a charismatic guru.
Right.
And so putting on that suit or that dress that guru is wearing is not going to work if that's not your personality style. And so you have to meet people where they are and give them that mentorship and guidance based on who they are and how they're going to excel, which goes back to what I was saying earlier about doing a personal SWOT analysis. Like, what are you What are you good at that you can capitalize on? What are you not good at that you can get help with?
My favorite coaching question is always two of them. First of all, what is your goal? What is your goal? Second question, what do you need to get there? And then ask yourself, how can I get there? And make a list of 25 to 30 things. What do I need to get there? How can I get there?
Yeah. And to add to that, I always say, and what will you do if one of those things doesn't work out how you want it to ensure you can still get to your goal? So there's a 3-column worksheet that I have to your point, Susanna. It's what will you do once you've made that list? What will you do? And in the middle column is when and where will you do it? And the last column is what do you expect the outcome to be? I like adding your final question, Susanna. If it doesn't work, what is your next plan? Do you just go down the list? I'm adding that column. Yeah, because I think that's, I don't know if this just applies to women in sales or everyone, but I think that's one thing that we all struggle with. We put a plan in place, we have a great coaching session, and then it fails. And then that didn't work, so I'm not going to try again. It's lifting yourself back up. And it's like you said at the beginning, that resilience, to build a habit and to make it stick.
And this is something that we talk about at Sales Gravy all the time, right? We started this episode talking about resilience, and we are often talking about obstacle immunity and how do you build up resilience? Well, you've got to get knocked down a lot. Yes. The more you get knocked down, the more you build that resilience, right? Yes. Like that's part of it.
Absolutely. And there are other things that you can do to build resiliency. The number one thing is to learn how to recover. A lot of people will say or think that rest and recovery are the same thing, and they are not. No, they're not. So learn how to recover. The longer you spend in the performance zone, the longer you need to spend in the recovery zone. If you think about Serena Williams at Wimbledon playing 4 hours, if she did not spend as much time in the recovery zone as she did in the performance zone, she would risk injury, burnout, and even think, you know what, this is not for me.
Well, that's also how you build endurance. If you think about, if you want to use a workout analogy, anyone who's worked out in a Tabata fashion where you are doing high intensity, 20 seconds of high intensity cardio, and then you take 10 seconds to rest, and then you do another 20 seconds high intensity, right? You just got off the Peloton before you got on this show with us, right? And I used to be a spin instructor, so I know a lot about what it takes to build up your stamina. You have to have those high intensity, and then you have to have that moment to catch your breath.
Yeah. I mean, it's such a big thing at the moment, isn't it? Everyone's talking about that work-life balance. Whereas when I started my career, there was no such thing as work-life balance. Everyone was just, you work. It was that kind of, you were expected to work around the clock, but then COVID happened. Now people can work from home. And some companies in the UK are offering, like, for mothers, stay at home with your child day, which is great on one hand, but then you had the women who weren't mothers saying, well, wait a second, just because I'm not a mother, I can't have that day. And then there was that whole thing. But, the good news is that when it comes to mental health and also needs that we all have, the world is becoming a lot more understanding of that work-life balance, I feel, than
so I'm going to call BS on something real quick.
Something I say?
Something that you say they're doing. If I'm a working mother and I am home with my child all day, if I have the day off from work, I'm still working. I'm changing diapers. I'm making meals. I am cleaning out garbage cans. I swapped one job for another. Yeah. So how am I recovering, unplugging from the day-to-day grind?
That's a great question.
Well, I think it depends on your child, right? I've got 2. And one, I would still be working. The other one, I'd probably be quite chilled and just having hugs all day. I miss your. I get your point. But
working, working from home with your kids is now you're still working. So stay home and send the kids to daycare.
There you go. And then take a spa day with no phone, or kayak all day with no phone.
Yeah,
yeah.
spa day with no phone. Sounds like heaven, doesn't it?
Ooh, Wednesday's my birthday, and that's exactly what I'm doing.
Oh, yes. Well,
very jealous.
We need to get together with you, and I would love it if we could get together and make that happen before Outbound. So we were hoping that while Susanna's here, if we can't make that happen, you and I are not that far apart distance wise, so we can make that happen.
I'll go to the bank and get some singles.
Oh, girl, yes. Come on. I'll send you the info about
please.
Tuck and Buck and Tuck coming.
That would be so much fun. That would be so much fun.
Oh my goodness. We gotta wrap up. We're so over time. I know. But we're gonna see more of you because you're gonna be at Outbound. Yes. And by the way, we are gonna be the lunchtime entertainment for 2 of those days where we will be live streaming this show, our podcast. Awesome. We want you part of that one of those 2 days. So you'll be on the panel with us, just so you know that's going to happen at Outbound. So those listeners who are listening, did you get your Outbound tickets yet? You guys need to go do that because there's going to be so much greatness going on. I know that. Do you have one of those popular questions, Susanna?
Of course. So, Cynthia, just to let you know, the end of the episode, we like to ask a question, a would you rather question. And I'm trying to make it more difficult and a bit more interesting each time. So, the question for you, where are we now? We're in April 2022, just reminding myself. Would you rather lose all your money that you've made this year or all your memories that you made this year? Choose one.
I'd rather lose all my money. Yeah.
You'd rather lose all your money. You've had some good memories this year then, yeah?
Yes. And they print new money every day, so I know I can go replace it.
Lovely answer.
Don't even try to ask me that question. Yep. I have the same answer. It's the same.
You always copy the guests, Gina.
And I'm having the most amazing memories this year that are just out of insane, like getting engaged, buying a house, getting a stepson. I mean, having you become my co-host.
That's what
I can go make more money tomorrow.
Exactly. I mean, I if I had to, I could do something strange for some change, but those memories, life is about experience. Your clients will pay for experiences more than they will pay for a product. So make their experience worth paying for.
Yes. Oh, what a great way to wrap up.
I love the way you talk.
Gosh, I can't wait to become best friends with you.
I know, right?
No. It's sad. We gotta go. Oh, wait, Susanna, what would you do? No, I know. It's always the opposite of me. It's the opposite. Go ahead.
No, it's not. Well, do you know what? I mean, I would look like a pretty bad mum, wouldn't I, if I said lose all my memories? Because I've had a lot of memories by little ones. But I mean, I have to agree because I back myself to make a lot more money this year if I'm to hit my targets.
I mean, I think resilience is all about it. Like if you have that attitude, the mindset and the resilience. I've lost money and I've lost a lot of things over the years and always bounced back, bringing it full circle to bounceability.
Yeah.
I'm chuffed. I'm chuffed for you.
Oh, chuffed. I love chuffed. Well, we unfortunately have to wrap up this episode. We're definitely going to have you back. We know we're going to have you live at Outbound. Yeah. Cynthia Barnes, if people want to connect with you, and I especially want to know about being part of your association.
Oh, we'll talk.
If people want to connect with you, what is the best way for them to do that?
LinkedIn. I am always on LinkedIn. Well, I'm not going to give that analogy. I'm always on LinkedIn. Let's just say. LinkedIn is my pimp. I mean, I am always on LinkedIn. So, yes. And if those who want information about the association, I promise not everybody has the same sense of humor I do. NAWSP.org.
Awesome. It has been such a pleasure having you here. I know what we're going to have more with you coming up in the future.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being such a fun and prolific and smart guest.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm reeling. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, Warners, we're out of here. It's the end of this episode of The Women Your Mother Warned You About, brought to you by Sales Gravy. I'm Gina Tremarco, signing off. We got to go. Bye, Warners.
That's the first time I've sworn on this podcast.